Welcome to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I am Shrimedha, and this is where we talk about mental health the way it actually feels, not the way it's supposed to look. And tonight, we are here with someone who understands what happens when being strong becomes the only role you know how to play. Joining me tonight is Natasha Bryant. Natasha, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. And Natasha, listeners, is someone who has spent years exploring what it costs to always be the one holding it all together. And tonight we are going to learn more about it from her. So, Natasha, when people hear the phrase overfunctioning, we often think that it just might mean we are being helpful or responsible more than we are supposed to be. But do you think that's what it really means to be an overfunctioning person, at least for someone who is one?
Yeah, I love what you said about how it can be perceived as being someone who is going above and beyond and who is, always willing to do more, right, for the greater good of whatever is going on around them. But really, over functioning means you are doing too much. Right. I literally just did a post where I challenged people to think about what above and beyond really means, right? When we're thinking about going above and beyond, a lot of times going above and beyond, we're doing it not actually for the impact we're trying to make. We're doing it to prove that we are worthy to be in the spaces that we're in. And that's what usually ends up driving the overfunctioning. It's this need. I want to make sure that nobody can ever doubt that I don't know what I'm talking about. I want to make sure that nobody can ever think that I'm weak and I can't handle any type of problem. I don't want anybody to ever doubt or think that I'm incapable of being in the position that I am in. And then so you end up doing more than you need to. You end up taking on more responsibility than you need to. And then you end up also making yourself way more accessible to people than they really should have access to you.
Absolutely. And Natasha, if someone's listening to this right now and is wondering whether this applies to them, how would you say, like, is there a sign to recognize that they are an overfunctioning person?
Yeah, one of the biggest signs is burnout, right? If you are having this emotional exhaustion where you just don't even have the energy to engage in relationships or conversations or things that you usually like to do. Something good could be happening in your life, and you're like, I don't even have the energy to celebrate. I'm just gonna be here. I'm just gonna sit here because I don't have the energy to celebrate. Or something can be upsetting, and you're like, I don't even have the energy to cry about it because I'm all out of tears. Like I'm just exhausted, right? Another example could be where there is like this mental fatigue also connects with burnout where you're struggling with processing and thinking. There's like this cognitive fog. You might be forgetting things. It's hard for you to articulate what you're thinking. That could also be connected with burnout. Also, it connects with over functioning is there could be this resentment where you have this resentment towards people because you feel like you're always the one. I'm always the one that's showing up. I'm always the one volunteering and nobody else is volunteering. I'm always the one checking in to make sure other people are okay or making sure, that the team is getting things done, but nobody else is choosing to take on that role or stepping in or stepping up. And then so you end up having this resentment towards people because you feel like you're always the one. So those are a couple examples of what are signs that you could be over functioning.
Absolutely. And since you brought up the context of resentment and the point you made, volunteering, so do you think is being an overfunctioning person is something we take up in the why do we take up in the first place? Like, is it something we choose or volunteer to do, or is it something that gets shaped in us over time?
Yeah, I'm gonna put on my therapist hat. I'm a licensed mental health professional. I also do execution coaching as well. When you're looking at it from the psychological aspect, right? The over functioning is creating a sense of safety. That's psychological safety, and the safety is in the safety that I will not be judged in a negative way. The safety of I will not be rejected. the safety of I will not be abandoned, right? Because if it's the idea, there's a belief system that if I keep showing up in this way, if I'm always volunteering and saying yes to things, it's I'm always achieving at high levels, if I'm always, staying extra long at work, right? Then that constantly will prove to people my worth and my value. That proves to people that I do belong. That proves to people that I am worthy of their praise or their acceptance. And so that's what ends up generating the overfunctioning is this need to prove that I am enough.
Absolutely. And so when you think that this sort of a pattern is set within us, we try to become the strong one, we try to prove ourselves. Do you think that shapes the way we relate to our own needs or maybe our own limits?
Yeah, this drama can become a can become an identity factor, right? It can quickly shift from just being a role that you play, or it can easily could shift to just becoming an action that you do to becoming who I am. I am the person that has it together. So then, as a result of it becoming your identity, you now are setting your own personal expectations to always have the answers. You end up setting your own personal expectations to be able to carry any weights or any difficult thing and show that you can do it and handle it on your own. You end up carrying the responsibility to be the fixer, to be the solver of different situations and other people's problems. And then that then causes you to constantly go beyond your limits because you don't really know what your limits are because the main focus is making sure that you prove that you are worthy, to prove that you deserve to be in these spaces, to prove that you have what it takes. And so the idea of thinking and asking yourself, wait, is this too much for me? Sounds crazy, right? Because it's like, it can't be too much for me because I have to, if I say that it's too much for me, then that shows that I'm weak or that shows that I'm not capable. And then that's going to lead people, that's going to open the door for people to judge me and believe this. So I can't say no to this thing or that I need help or that I'm incapable of doing it all by myself because that opens the door for judgment. And so it causes you to not even know where your limitations are because you're not even allowing yourself or giving yourself the permission to even set limitations.
Absolutely. And do you think this might affect the regular dynamics in our everyday life, maybe in our families, friendships, even when probably the intention is good, maybe this can have some negative implications?
Oh, for sure. It can cause a disconnection within relationships. And the reason why is because when you are the strong one, there is so like what when we talk about like, what is even causes the strong one? Like how do you even start to get into that role? Well, it could be like your childhood, right? Where just who you are as a person, your personality, your temperament, you are just a natural born leader. You're someone who takes the lead. You're someone that is organized. You're someone who has good time management. Like you just naturally have those gifts. And so you just end up falling into that role or family roles, right? Where, you've been assigned because you're the oldest, right? And so you're always the one that's being held as being the responsible one, take the lead, take care of your brothers and sisters, right? Or it could be a trauma response, where that has been your way of surviving because you couldn't depend on other people. You couldn't trust other people. And so you had to always depend on yourself to be able to survive throughout the world and throughout your life. And so it as a result of those different things, what happens is it can easily develop throughout your life. It can easily develop this belief system that two belief systems. One is that you can't trust other people. People are disappointing. People will let you down. People will not show up when they say they're going to show up, right? People aren't going to do it the right way, right? These are all these different mindset belief systems that get created. So as a result of that, you then don't trust the world. And then that can impact your relationships with other people because when it is time to depend on somebody else, you don't offer those opportunities. You don't believe that you can trust that this person is really going to do what they say or going to show up in the way that you need them to show up. So you don't open up and you're not vulnerable, right? And then also it leads to the lack of vulnerability. It can lead to this mask because again, the strong one is it's to prove that you have it together, to prove that you can handle anything. And that no matter whatever comes your way, you can accept any challenge and do it well, right? And so as a result of that, you end up putting a mask on often. And then so the version that people see of you is this version of someone who has it all together all the time. And so therefore people are expecting you to have it all together all the time. So they don't offer help. They don't ask for help because they're like, oh, she doesn't need help. She always has it together. I'm the one who needs help, right? But then also you present that way of like, oh, people don't, I can handle it. Like people, like whatever comes my way, I'm good. I can handle tough things, but I don't think they will be able to handle it. So I got to make sure I show up. And so then that leads you to creating this dynamic within relationships that you don't ever need help. So then nobody ever asks you for help. And then it leads to resentment towards people because you're like, well, nobody's asking me for help, but they're always expecting me to show up for them. And so these are all different ways that leads to this disconnection, and it prevents the strong one, the person who's playing the strong one role, from being vulnerable and opening up. And then it leads you to feeling lonely. Even if you have people in your life, you still feel alone because you feel like, well, nobody really knows who I really am. They don't know who I really am. But one thing I always challenge when I work with individuals, I work with high achieving women, I work with high performing professionals. And so being the strong one is often a role that is played. And I often have to challenge them to take responsibility for that disconnect. Because the reason why people are treating you as a strong one is because you're not creating opportunities for people to support you, right? That resentment you're having, you got to take responsibility and ask yourself, really, am I actually the cause of why nobody's asking me for help? Because if you are constantly jumping in to help other people and you're not creating opportunities for people to help you, then why would somebody even ask you for help? Because they're automatically going to assume that you are good. And so that disconnect a lot of times happens in those ways.
Totally. And let's say someone recognizes these patterns in themselves, and how would you suggest they start to shift out of that pattern without feeling like they are letting people down, or without feeling guilty?
Yeah, yeah. One is to ask, is there two things? One is to ask, is there something that you're carrying more of your share of? Because being the strong one leads to you stepping in and a lot of times taking on more than you actually volunteered for. The strong one, you're supposed to only do 10%, and this person's supposed to be the 90%, and somehow the roles reversed, and you now doing 90% and they're doing 10%, right? Or it's supposed to be a 50-50, and this person's barely, holding their weight, and you're holding the whole, you're doing it all, right? So it's really asking yourself, like really identifying one area where you find yourself carrying more than your actual share. And then another question is there a responsibility that you're carrying that was never yours to carry in the first place? Both of these things are going to challenge you to recognize areas where you need to start stepping back. And then that's when you then need to start setting those boundaries for yourself. This is not even a boundary for somebody else, it's a boundary for how you are showing up, right? And so where you are setting a boundary to say no to things that are not yours in the first place. So instead of like jumping in and saving and rescuing people and stepping in and solving other people's problems, really thinking, wait, is this my problem even to carry? Is this my problem in the first place? And if the answer is no, it's not my problem, then all you need to do is just be an active listener. Show verbal support of like, oh, dang, I'm so sorry to hear that. Wow, that must be really hard for you. Tell me more. Like, how are you handling that? That's all you need to do. Right? And if you feel the need you need to fix, first ask the person, are you looking to vent? Or are you looking to receive help on solving a problem? And even if they say, yes, I want help solving a problem, you don't do the solving for them. You can provide them with resources, you can help them with brainstorming, but you don't actually do the work for them. You handle the resources and then let them do the work, but you fall back. So it's like stepping back in those different ways. Or if you volunteer for something, um, or you agree to do something, making sure that you don't cross the limit and take on more responsibility than you initially agreed on. Even if that person's not doing it right, even if that person's not doing it as fast as you want them to do it, even if that person's not, showing up in the way you think they should be showing up, that's on them. You stay in your lane and focus on what you agreed on. And those are ways to kind of start to step back and not take on more than you actually need to be taking on.
Absolutely. And that makes so much sense. But I think that's where the real work begins. And that's the hardest part to begin with. And, when someone actually starts practicing these things and maybe they step out of that overfunctioning role for a while, how do you think they will be able to realize that something has started to shift for them, preferably for the betterment, not just in their relationships, but maybe in the way they see themselves, the roles they are taking up on?
Yeah, one, you'll feel less stress. Like you'll literally feel it in your body. You don't realize how much stress you're holding on in your body a lot of times until the stress is removed. And then you realize, like, oh, wait, that's why my blood pressure was so high. Oh, wait, that's why I was feeling all this heaviness in my shoulders and in my back. Like I was doing more than I was supposed to be doing, right? So that's one sign. Like you start to feel less stress, physically feel less stress. Another one is you have more time. You realize, like, oh, I actually have way more time than I thought that I actually had because I'm doing less. Another one is you realize things are less complicated, right? You recognize, like, oh, this is a lot easier than I was initially doing it because I'm not doing all these extra steps. So you notice that things are becoming more simpler. Um, and then the final one when it comes to interpersonal relationships, if you allow yourself to be more open and vulnerable, you recognize like, oh, people are actually asking and offering me help. I just was never accepting it. Right. And then you start to like, and then people, and then more and more, the more you say yes to the help, the more people start to actually offer more of the help as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's the bravest thing one can do to not take up on everyone else's loads, but just keep their own focus in need first. And
Mhm.
maybe just stop carrying what was never yours to hold on to.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think that's very liberating.
Mhm. 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 For sure. I mean, could you imagine? It's like having, this plate and all these things and it's so heavy. And you're like, "Oh my god, this thing is so heavy." Like my biceps are burning, my forearms are burning. My hands are my palms are sweaty. I'm about to drop this plate. And then before you know, and then you start taking stuff off the plate. People offer to take stuff off the plate and you welcome the offer, right? And you allow people to take things off your plate and then you realize, like, oh, the actual things I actually only need to be carrying on this plate is doable. Like, this plate actually isn't heavy. Carrying this plate is actually doable once I remove the things that I didn't need to carry or once I allowed myself to receive the help that I needed.
Totally. And that makes so much sense. I think it's in realizing that being strong doesn't mean never needing support. It just means knowing when to put something down.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having this conversation, Natasha. It was so great talking to you. And if our listeners want to connect with you, where do you suggest they find you?
Yeah, they can check out my website, speaklifetransformation.com to learn more about me and my services, also my products. And then they can, on social media, they can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Speak Life Transformation, Facebook, Speak Life Transformation SLT. And they also can check out my YouTube channel, Speak Life Transformation TV, to watch some more videos on topics like this.
Absolutely. I would definitely recommend our listeners to please go have a look. I'm sure that will be of much help to them. And thank you for having this conversation, Natasha. And to all our listeners, thank you for being here. And I hope what you just heard makes you realize that it isn't about doing less, it's about doing it differently, the way you need it, your way. And rest is not a weakness. Having boundaries is not equivalent to being selfish. And letting someone else uh, step up for themselves doesn't mean you have failed in letting them do their own thing. You have just helped them out. And you don't have to be the strong one all the time. You just need to be honest enough to notice that the role you are playing is costing you more than it's giving. That's awareness. That's the first place to begin with, as Natasha already mentioned. Take care of your mind and thank you for being here. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next episode.